and we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup, suffering from spring allergies, so please excuse me if I sneeze or sniff or whatever.
And we start with some good news. A lesbian judge, a federal judge, has issued an injunction against Trump's ban on transgender service members.
Really stunning. We told you about this case. Well, it's now come to a decision. And a federal judge has ordered Elon Musk to reinstate USAID.
Ohio's ban on gender-affirming care for minors is overturned by a state appeals court.
Now, that's the end of the good news. The CDC is looking to close the Division of HIV Prevention. And the Department of Veteran Affairs does cut off veterans from gender-affirming care.
Harvey Fierstein has been banned from the Trump Kennedy Center.
I made a whole list of other LGBT playwrights who would be eligible for similar
Shakespeare? Bisexual, excuse me.
I didn't go back quite that far.
Okay.
Voting for a Supreme Court justice in Wisconsin is underway in the $60 million race, which ends April 1st. Polls are tied, so your vote will make a difference.
Pete Buttigieg is dissing DEI trainings as he preps for his 28 campaign for president.
I told you the good news was over. Well, here's a little good news. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear led a rally for diversity and against anti-LGBTQ bills. But California Governor Newsom, who we gave up on last week, is trying to halt trans bills from being introduced in his legislature.
This is a great story, and we have video. An Idaho teacher was told to take down a classroom sign that says, "Everyone is welcome here." She resists.
Unlike Governor Newsom. The National Park Service has restored website pages about Bayard Rustin, though transgender people are still erased.
But Arlington Cemetery does an anti-DEI cleanup on its website, censoring the achievements of women and people of color who are buried there.
Wait till you hear what they did to Jackie Robinson. Hungary, under Trump pal Viktor Orban, has banned pride marches, although they've been taking place there for 30 years.
Pioneering gay author Felice Pacano has died at 81.
And the National Institutes of Health are erasing Dr. Tony Fauci and the nation's commitment to scientific medical research.
Okay.
Now, before we get into all the details of these stories, I just want to, let's set the scene here. Trump, every time he opens his mouth, lies, bullies, cheats. His entire presentation is a disgrace and dangerous to everyone in this country. And so we will go back and forth with good news and bad news and details. But we have to see the big picture here, which is that we are really on the road to destruction.
We're completely getting run over, and it's not being stopped. I mean, it was nice to see Justice Roberts wake up for 5 seconds and say, oh, no, you shouldn't impeach people for their decisions.
Well, I think the resistance is rising. There is good news on that front. But the overwhelming direction of what he is doing to this country is almost incalculable. It's so bad.
We're on the side of the Russians, in war. I mean.
Well, he wants us to be Russia and be Hungary,
yes,
and be all these dictatorships. He thinks of himself as literally a king.
Right.
When he says to judges, you can't make that decision, I am the law, you have no right to make that decision.
All these people they shipped off to El Salvador without any due process, which there is absolutely no right to do that. We are not at war. You can't invoke a war act when we're not at war.
And wanting to impeach all these judges. He literally thinks of himself as the be-all and end-all of deciding what is doable and legal in this country. And he said yesterday, I would never not follow the law. Are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, he also says, we're not going to touch Social Security. They've already devastated it.
Yes.
They're wiping out all the support services. So, look, I have my Social Security. I hope I'm going to get my checks.
Ditto.
I got this month's. But if I had a problem, or it was a problem, I'm supposed to go into an office somewhere. I've never had to go to a Social Security office, et cetera.
Look, I just don't want us to be caught up in the weeds of the details. We will tell you a lot of individual stories, but please keep in mind that we are in a terrible war with the overlords who want to take over this country and are making a lot of progress doing that.
And so Trump is coming down in the polls, but the Democrats are not rising up. And I don't think that, and this is the problem with Schumer and Jeffries and all these people, they haven't articulated a clear enough vision that people will embrace and get excited about.
Look, it is clear to me that Trump can go down to 0 in the polls, but it's not going to stop him, because he's got the power now. He has the reins in his hands, and he is going to keep doing all of this unless he keels over and dies, or some coup takes place.
Then you get Vance, who could be
that's my point.
Who could be even worse.
That's my point. This is not normal. We're not going to, by the time we get to the midterms, which I'm certainly eager to hit, it could all be over. They could have really destroyed everything.
So we win back the House, maybe, if you've looked at,
I can't even think in those terms.
But I'm just saying, even if you do, he ignores it anyway, ignores the Congress anyway.
Okay. So that's setting the scene.
Thank goodness for Judge Anya Reyes down there, where's she, in Washington. She issued a temporary injunction of Trump's order to ban trans service members from the U.S. military. She said the policy is not only unconstitutional, but it's a solution in search of a problem. The ban at bottom invokes derogatory language to target a vulnerable group in violation of the Fifth Amendment, egregiously misquotes studies and ignores data supplied by service about transgender service. And, she says you're just characterizing them all as weak, dishonorable, undisciplined, boastful, selfish liars who are mentally unfit to serve. So she let them have it, and she said this ban cannot stand.
She said the government's argument was soaked in animus and bore no relation to the fact, just demeaning to these trans soldiers.
If you put the picture up, the DOJ lawyer, look at this punk, Jason Mannion, a lawyer for the administration. He could not answer any of her questions that she was throwing at him. He didn't produce any evidence.
Well, because they don't think they have to. They're not. This is what I mean about not taking this in old terms, so that we are beyond normal times. The same thing happened with the deportation of the Venezuelans to El Salvador. The administration lawyers went into court over their dead bodies because they tried to get the hearing called off. But they eventually had to show up. And when they were asked for facts about these people who were deported, they said, we're not going to tell you.
Yeah.
We're not going to answer your questions. We're not going to tell you. Same thing happened here. We have no answers. We have no facts. We are in charge. We make the rules. Right. You do it our way. So this military case is, we had one of the lawyers on a few weeks ago, Jennifer Levi from GLAAD in Boston, and Shannon Minter of National Center for Lesbian Rights in San Francisco was the other lead lawyer on this case. 2 trans lawyers. Lesbian judge, and the lawyers were brilliant and wonderful and proved the righteousness of these trans military members to be able to serve, and how their service has been even above and beyond non-trans military members. But I worry that something else is going to come down. So they held a press conference call today, the day after the verdict. We're taping on Wednesday. And I asked, the administration has done nothing but lie, cheat, and steal. What could they do to destroy this? And they sort of avoided that question. So then I asked, well, does this decision mean that principle of violating the Fifth Amendment and equal protection, can that be extrapolated to other cases of trans youth care or other trans people at large? And they said, yes, this is establishing a principle that can be taken across these cases across the U.S. So I'm hopeful that will happen. We'll see. But it's a great victory for very principled people, but watch out, because that doesn't mean that
the Justice Department has already gone after Judge Reyes and said, when she said WTF to one of the DOJ lawyers, that was totally inappropriate and she should be brought up on charges.
Probably impeached. And the Department of Defense, you don't think Pete Hegseth will find a way to make the lives of trans?
With all those tattoos, I'm surprised he hasn't been shipped off to El Salvador.
Yeah.
Another federal judge says that the dismantling of USAID was unconstitutional and ordered Musk to restore access for employees. This is U.S. District Judge Theodore Chuang. And said that this was all unconstitutional, ordered a pause on the efforts to shut it down. They've already taken the name off the building.
The thinking is that they can restore some stuff, but not a lot, and maybe not enough. So,
well, because it's been shifted to the State Department,
yes.
And he's already what's his name, Little Marco, has already cut off 90% of USAID.
But it is the first time a court has pushed back against Musk and said that he does not have the right to do what he's doing.
Now, President Musk did this week share a post about how Stalin, Hitler, and Mao didn't cause the deaths of millions of people. It was their public sector workers who did it.
What does that even mean?
This is all about, like, what he's doing is getting rid of the deep state public sector. They're the bad guys, not the dictators.
And,
who were beloved by the people. And then Musk is also killing Tesla. Because, we've talked about how his sales are down all over the world. And now there's a company, another maker called Polestar, that wants to deliver the final blow. They're offering Tesla drivers a $20,000 discount for a new Polestar if they trade in their swastika cars. And Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, wants to classify vandalism against Tesla cars as domestic terrorism.
Yes.
And our friends at Rise and Resist are being targeted by her. And by cretins in Congress like Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes, they want to prosecute them for that.
Oh, but the Tesla,
they're having to talk to lawyers. Ron Kuby is now one of the people who's going to represent Rise and Resist.
The great civil rights lawyer.
Yes.
But Tesla, like all automakers, is appealing to Trump and saying, oh, don't do these tariffs. It's killing our industry.
Well, didn't Trump say something about it's illegal not to buy a Tesla? I don't know, something strange. But yeah, if the Justice Department and the administration want to classify all demonstrations and statements against Trump and Musk, statements as domestic terrorism.
I thought they were the Free Speech Administration.
Well, they are the
of course.
Hypocrisy.
Well, an appeals court on Friday lifted a block on executive orders seeking to end government support for diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, handing the Trump administration a win after a series of setbacks and dozens of lawsuits.
But lawsuits against it are going to continue, so that's just about the temporary restraining order. Can we show, I don't know where we have it in this list of things, but I want to show, because I'm so crazy about it, the Switzerland demonstration.
Well, that's way down, and that's in international news.
Well, it's anti-Trump, so I don't know. Can the control room call up the? I want to show a real demonstration against.
There it is.
There it is. So in Switzerland, they all dressed up with headpieces that are giving the finger to Trump.
Now this is Switzerland, little neutral, don't bother us, Switzerland. Home of the cuckoo clock.
Well, even they could see how cuckoo Trump is.
Yes.
And it really just warmed the cockles of my heart. And as Johnny Carson used to say, you don't want to have cold cockles.
Americans are going overseas wearing Canadian Maple Leaf T-shirts.
Look at this. I love this. Look at that. They're all giving him the finger
yes,
on their
they are.
pieces.
And
all right, thank you.
Good news from Ohio, where a state appeals court struck down Ohio's ban on gender-affirming care for minors, citing parental rights and calling out health care discrimination. This was the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. They reversed the decision by a lower court. And so that's terrific.
They said parents should have the power to make decisions about their kids' care.
Right.
Which is what we've been saying.
Which they've always had, for the most part, except in very rare circumstances.
Yes.
Now, we showed you this before, how Trump retweeted a pink triangle being crossed out as an example of keeping gays out of the military. He retweeted this. So when they finally reached the White House for a comment on this, the spokesperson said, "No president has been a greater friend to the Jewish community and Israel than President Trump." Now, what does that have to do anything? The pink triangles were for the gays, not the Jews. And by the way, if you were gay and Jewish in the camps, you got a pink triangle and a yellow triangle. So, God.
Yeah, a yellow star.
It made a star.
Yeah.
It was, out of a pink triangle and a yellow triangle. Anyway, okay, here's another story. Segregated facilities are no longer explicitly banned in federal contracts. Now, this goes back to the 1960s. If you wanted a contract with the federal government, they said you can't have segregated facilities, like when you had separate, waiting rooms and restrooms and all those kinds of things and for people. So they've taken this clause out. Now, there are state and local and federal laws against discrimination, but this is just so outrageous. They want to remove every vestige of civil rights law from, anything that they write or put out.
It's just inexplicable. They threw out the South African ambassador. Yeah. Because they say South Africa is discriminating against Afrikaners.
Yes.
And now
whites.
Yes. So they threw out the representative of the black South African government from the U.S.
He was also pretty clear on how he felt about Trump.
Well, they really are trying to just disappear everyone who is not white and straight.
The question is, do we want to disappear Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries? Are we? People are upset with the leadership that we're getting from Congress.
Yeah.
There are many Congress members who are terrific. Chris Murphy from Connecticut is out there, the senator.
Sheldon Whitehouse was terrific this week.
Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island, senator. Obviously, many of them. But, Chuck Schumer, is getting a lot of heat. He says, I don't care. I can take it because I'm saving you from a worse fate. But, all right, you let this horrible bill go through. You didn't stop it. You said it'd be much worse if we had a shutdown. If we had a shutdown. But then you've got to be out there on the front lines with us.
Yes, the members of the Democrats should be screaming and yelling every single day about these things that Trump is doing.
Absolutely. Then they're not. They're acting like, wait for the midterms or something.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yeah, that is what they should be doing. I understand that a shutdown would be a disaster because it would give more power to Trump and Musk and the whole crowd. But then you have to go out and shout and yell and inform the people about what's going on.
We used to be able to stop things like this. Trump this week gutted the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Education. Anything to do with civil rights is gone.
They took Jackie Robinson off the Department of Defense, website, because he's black.
Yes.
And that to them is DEI. You show a black person, and that's DEI.
Right, absolutely.
And Ira Hayes, the Native American hero.
Yep.
At Iwo Jima.
And the code talkers.
Yes.
They're all gone. Because you know, they're just soldiers. We don't want to emphasize that they're Native American or black or anything. And think of all that they had to overcome to serve this nation, all the prejudice that they had to endure in the service. I mean, of course, they were segregated in World War II. I mean, we didn't get desegregation in the military until Harry Truman issued an executive order in 1948.
It's unbelievable.
And then let's go to the Kennedy Center.
Oh, let's not.
Well, after J.D. Vance's arrival, of course, he got booed when he was at the Kennedy Center.
A beautiful sight.
Yes,
Congratulations to the patrons of the Kennedy Center who booed J.D. Vance.
So then Richard Grinnell, this gay punk who was Trump's hand-picked culture warrior, responded by calling for diversity and inclusion. Everyone is welcome here, more about which later. As president of the Kennedy Center, I take diversity inclusion very seriously. I have met many of you, he says to the staff. I love that we're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, agnostic, gay, straight, black, white, Hispanic, and absolutely different. Intolerance towards people who are politically different is just as unacceptable as intolerance in other areas.
It is gobsmacking that he could get up and give that speech. If a Democrat gave that speech, he'd be in jail.
Right. And then there's Harvey Fierstein, 72 years old now. He wrote a new statement saying, I have been banned by the Kennedy Center, and he shared it on social media. The shows I've written are now banned from being performed in our premier American theater. Those shows, most of which have been performed there in the past, include Kinky Boots, La Cage aux Folles, Torch Song Trilogy, Hairspray, Safe Sex, Casa Valentina, Spook House, A Catered Affair, The Sissy Dunkling, and Bella Bella, and more.
Go ahead.
Well, he says, my fellow Americans, I warn you, this is not how it begins. This is how freedom ends. Trump may have declared woke as dead in America. We must prove him wrong. Wake the hell up. And I know if you watch this show, you're awake.
So, I hope so. So I made a quick list off the top of my head of other playwrights, LGBT, who could be banned. Are they going to not do shows by Stephen Sondheim, Terrence McNally, Carson McCullers, Edward Albee, Tony Kushner, Paula Vogel, Lillian Hellman, Mark Crowley, John Waters, Noel Coward, Federico Garcia Lorca, Oscar Wilde, Lorraine Hansberry. Will all their shows also be banned at the Kennedy Center?
Well, somebody once, I think, maybe it was, somebody once said you take away the contributions of gays and Jews to show business, and what you're left with is Let's Make a Deal, which is hosted now by a non-binary host, right?
Yes. So Trump says that he wants to host the Kennedy Center honors.
Oh, it'll be grotesque, and I hope CBS dumps it.
Because he says the show in the past has been boring. He couldn't watch it.
All right, let's talk about what's happening with some people who want to run for president. So Pete Buttigieg announced that he's not running for Senate or governor in Michigan next year, and he wants to be in the field and unencumbered as he runs for president. He didn't say, as he runs for president in 2028.
Yeah.
But did you see this clip of him talking about DEI trainings? He goes, well, I'm all for, of course, we want to support social justice, all this kind of stuff. But if you've been to some of these trainings, I mean, this is what creates Trump voters. This is what creates. Now, look, some trainings are meant to make people a bit uncomfortable about where they are, and so that they can move to a new place. And I'm not saying they're always done perfectly, but my goodness.
Well, he didn't have to attack the trainings. I've been to good trainings and horrible trainings. There are boring trainings. There are stupid trainings, but that's not the point. You haven't been to our trainings, which are just compelling and amusing and extremely enlightening.
We used to get good reviews.
Yes, exactly. But he's pandering.
Yep.
As you said last week about Gavin Newsom, he's trying to have his Sister Souljah moment.
Well, Gavin Newsom.
We thought Pete Buttigieg was above that.
Gavin Newsom and had Steve Bannon as his second guest on. He continues to move to the right. And the thing is, this week we learned that aides to Newsom held a private meeting with Democratic lawmakers and discouraged them from sending him any more pro-LGBTQ legislation. I'm running for president here. I don't want to, I've done enough for you people. Go away. So the LGBTQ caucus ignored him. And so having Bannon on, I mean, and he doesn't challenge Bannon when they say bigoted things when they're sitting there.
It's one thing to have people on. Didn't I once call the Commissioner of Health of New York a murderer?
Yes, on this show.
In this show, yeah. If you're going to have someone on like that, challenge them.
Right. All right.
Not them.
And then there's Andrew Cuomo, who is running for mayor of New York City and also being talked about as a presidential candidate. His campaign treasurer that he just appointed for this new campaign worked for the effort to defeat the Equal Rights Amendment in New York. His name is Christopher Graham, who oversaw the fundraising for the Coalition to Protect Kids, because they went after the Equal Rights Amendment because they it was going to protect gender identity. So Cuomo has absolutely no consciousness about this.
Oh, he's always been a monster.
And, he got same-sex marriage passed. And by the way, he was one of the last big public officials in New York to come out for it. But when he was governor and we needed to get it through, he made that a thing. And he got a lot of applause in the community for it.
Well,
but you can't trade on that forever.
He'd been against it for years, and then when he finally supported it, he acted as if he'd invented it. He claimed credit for it being the first in the nation, yes, which it was not.
Massachusetts was.
And Iowa was ahead of him. And he just, when you say that to him, he says, well, we were the first big important state to do it.
Well, let me just.
He's my new neighbor. I saw him on the street this week. He lives half a block away. If you have any ideas for what I should do to Andrew Cuomo the next time I run into him.
You should say to him?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, here's the deal, and I just pause. I don't want to be too New York-centric on the show because we're an international program. We are.
We are.
But you get 5 votes in the June primary for mayor in the Democratic primary. Use all 5 of your votes. Pick your favorite, but then pick 4 others down the line. And keep Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams out of it, and then we have a chance of stopping this guy.
Ranked choice voting.
Yes. Don't waste your votes.
All right. And there is this election now in Wisconsin. We should mention that. For a judgeship for the Wisconsin Supreme Court, which has 7 members. It's split 3-3 at the moment, and whoever wins this election is going to tilt the court in
there are the direction. Candidates. Brad, what's his name?
Schimmel.
Schimmel on the left is a right-wing anti-gay candidate, and Susan Crawford is a progressive. And again, the polls are tied 47-47. Elon Musk has poured $10 million into this campaign of his own money to try. That's how important they think that this is, because it's all about controlling the election apparatus in the state and all those things.
Yes.
It's got a progressive majority now. That seat is up for
by
grabs.
The skin of its teeth. It didn't for a long time.
Up for grabs. So
the election is April 1st, but there's early voting now. So you can vote in Wisconsin if you live there, and we urge you to get out and vote.
I've talked to some Wisconsin voters.
Yeah.
Hi out there. Okay.
Okay.
How about the assault on the universities and what they're telling places like Columbia to start?
Oh my God.
I mean, they want them. The first thing was, oh, you're anti-Semitic, which is insane, and we're taking $400 million of grants. But now they're saying you have to get rid of the departments on Middle Eastern, South Asian, and African studies. You have to put them under academic receivership, or you're not getting any more federal money. I mean, the universities get a ton of federal money. In some cases, it's almost like half their budget.
A lot of grants for research.
If you're going to be a worthwhile institution at all, just going to say it, you're just going to have to cut the cord and say, okay, we can't do those things. We can do what's right, and seriously. But don't make an accommodation to this.
Well, it's just, again, unimaginable that the federal government would get down to dictating the curriculum in universities, but at elementary schools for that matter. And the fact that people are caving to that because they're so tied to these research grants or federal scholarship money or whatever. And a lot of these places have huge endowments, tons of money in the bank. That's why Harvard has just decided to give free tuition to
the poor, to those who make under $200,000.
Well, their annual tuition is $85,000.
I know.
So they need to do that, and they should have been doing it a long time ago because they have billions of dollars.
Okay. Kentucky. The Republican lawmakers there passed a measure to protect conversion therapy for LGBTQ youths as part of a bill that would also outlaw the use of Medicaid funds to pay for gender-affirming health care for people in Kentucky. Now, Governor Beshear said he would veto it, but they have veto-proof majorities. But we do want to show you when these bills were put up, they had a rally in Kentucky, and Governor Beshear, who's also running for president, stood up, and you'll see what he said.
Here at the Capitol, a passionate crowd voicing their concerns about legislation that threatens LGBTQ rights here in Kentucky. Now they're asking lawmakers to reject those measures.
What do we want? When do we want it?
Governor Andy Beshear and Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman headlined the annual statewide fairness rally Tuesday morning. Advocates say a dozen bills moving through the General Assembly right now threaten LGBTQ rights. One of the most controversial measures is House Bill 495, which seeks to overturn the governor's executive order banning conversion therapy.
If it passes and it reaches my desk, I will veto it. So together, we're working to build a new Kentucky home, a place where we welcome more voices and more people at the table.
Brandon Long shared the therapy he faced in conversion therapy.
This is not just about sexuality. This is about human dignity. This is about the right to exist.
Senate Bill 132 would allow healthcare workers in the Commonwealth to deny service to a person based on religious, philosophical, or ethical beliefs.
This is our civil rights movement. This is our time to show up. This is our time to organize. This is our time to stand together.
Advocates call Senate 60, which would allow groups to sue counties that have fairness ordinances, a jackpot justice bill.
Make sure that you hold these folks accountable. Be bold. Be brave. You do that every single day.
We will not stop until this wrong is righted.
Kentucky's first black transgender candidate for State House, Karma Bell Marshall, says no one should be silent during these times.
We are not small. We are not weak. And we will not be erased.
Reporting from the Capitol, Joyce O'Geary, WLKY News.
And they're going to have a rally. So good on him, Governor Beshear, and who is running for president. And if you're, we'll put this in our email, but Equality Florida is having their Let Us Live March and Rally in Tallahassee, their annual rally at 10:30 on Thursday, March 20th
Tomorrow.
at the Capitol. But we'll put it in the email so people can stream it.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has told state agencies to ignore state court orders for updating gender markers. Just ignore them.
Democratic U.S. Senator Jean Shaheen of New Hampshire says she's not going to run, and apparently the leading candidate to replace her is the House member, Chris Pappas, who is openly gay.
He's not the only Democrat running.
No, but he would be the first out gay male senator, U.S. senator.
Let's go to Iowa. Oh, wait, is that where I want to go? No, well, Idaho. Idaho, where?
Well, we do have, we want to show the picture of people protesting
Idaho.
at Trump Tower for Mahmoud Khalil. That was a furious crowd at Trump Tower, 150 people from Jewish Voice for Peace. They took over the place at Trump Tower, the same place that Trump announced his first presidential bid. And there were 199 arrests of people.
So in West Ada, Idaho, a teacher put up some cheery signs in her classroom, elementary school, I think it must have been. "Everyone is welcome here" was one of her signs. Yes. And she was told to take it down, and her job was threatened. And so she took it down because she was, compliant. And then she thought about it, and she said, "No, that's wrong. I'm putting it back up." Let's go to the videotape.
Content neutral and conducive to a positive learning environment. Mm-hmm. That's the policy.
Right. And I was told that it's not content neutral, that it's a personal opinion.
At West Ada, school teacher is being told to remove 2 signs of inclusion from her middle school classroom because the school district says it violates policy. Sarah Inama has taught world civilization to 6th graders at Lewis and Clark Middle School for the past 4 years. And for the past 4 years, Sarah had these signs up in her classroom. One that said, "Everyone in this room is welcome, important, accepted, respected, encouraged, valued, and equal," written over the colors of the rainbow. And another that said, "Everyone is welcome here," showing hands of various skin tones, hearts in the palm, those kind of things. Pretty benign signs if you look at them. And before we go any further with this, the sign with the rainbow colors, not the same as an LGBTQ flag, although Sarah says she's very much an ally, she just doesn't advertise it in her classroom. So for 4 years, these signs have survived sans harassment. Nobody said a word about them. That is, until about a month ago.
My building administration came to me during my lunch period and told me that they needed to be taken down by the end of the day. They told me that they were in violation of district policy because in today's political environment, they're considered a personal opinion.
Did they say somebody complained about them?
No. I asked if anyone had complained about them, and they said, "No, we just want to protect you from that if that were to happen."
In this political environment? Mm-hmm. That is not acceptable.
Yeah, I was told a couple things. That everyone is welcome here is not something that everybody believes. So that's what makes it a personal opinion.
You were told this? Mm-hmm. That not everybody believes everyone is welcome?
Right.
Okay. And who told you this? Who was the one saying that not everyone believes this?
My building administration and district personnel.
Face to face, they told you this?
Mm-hmm.
What was your response to that?
Because I was told to take it down by the end of the day, I did so. And the following few days, I just was so unsettled by it. And so I went back into my classroom and put it back up. And I emailed my principal and said, I don't agree. I don't agree that this is a personal opinion. I feel like this is the basis of public education.
And what was the response to that?
They came to talk to me and again asked me to take it down. And I said, I'm not interested in taking it down.
That's when the district higher-ups got involved. In an email exchange with Chief Academic Officer Marcus Myers, he highlighted the section of district policy he says Sarah's signs violated, including the advancement of individual beliefs and district facilities should be content neutral. But more specifically, Myers pointed to Idaho Code, the Dignity and Non-Discrimination in Public Education Act, which says district employees and students shall respect the dignity of others and acknowledge the right of others to express differing opinions. And they're saying that putting up a poster that says everyone is welcome is a violation of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because everyone is welcome here, especially since the poster emphasizes in regards to skin color with the images of the hands, that is considered something that people have differing views on.
And the differing view would be racist?
I mean, I can't even wrap my head around what other differing view of it would be. I mean, except for something that's exclusionary. So everyone is welcome here really isn't a personal statement, it's non-discrimination. It's verbatim on our Explorer Way posters.
That's true. Sarah says these posters, made by the middle school principals and put up in every classroom, lay out what it means to be a Lewis and Clark Explorer, welcome others, and embrace diversity. Isn't everyone is welcome here the same thing?
It is welcoming others and it is embracing diversity. And these are the students that are in our community. I just feel like, as a teacher, and I feel like probably a lot of teachers share this sentiment, I would do anything to protect my students. I love all of them unconditionally. We protect them from danger. Quite literally would take a bullet for these students. And this is the one small thing that I feel like I can do to speak out against this and stand up for them to protect them from being affected by racist sentiments affecting their classroom. I find it hard to grapple with the fact that the reason why this poster needs to come down is because there are people outside of our school that disagree with it.
Well, she's a hero, and when she goes to court, all she has to do is quote Richard Grinnell, who said about the Kennedy Center, everyone is welcome here.
Exactly.
All right, but they're not all welcome in West Virginia, where the legislature has authorized genital exams of kids without parental consent. It would allow healthcare providers to visually or physically examine a minor child for the purpose of identifying, quote unquote, biological sex without the consent of the child's parent or guardian or custodian. It's just insane.
Well, that's what Lauren Boebert wants to do in restrooms.
By the way, state Senate passed it 32-1. And I read that there are only 3 Democrats in the West Virginia legislature.
Yes.
Wow. West Virginia used to be, a hotbed of...
almost heaven, West Virginia.
It was a yellow dog state. Although, of course, it split from Virginia because it,
Please, we have to move on.
So in North Dakota, the state Senate rejected a bill calling on the Supreme Court to overturn marriage equality. It was put forward by Mass Resistance, which is the group that formed after Massachusetts opened marriage to same-sex couples. The Catholic Conference in North Dakota spoke in favor of it.
I like the guy in Wisconsin, Larry Jones. He went to a city council hearing over an anti-trans bill. He planned to testify for the anti-trans bill. He sat there for 6 hours listening to testimony, talking to people around him. And when it was his turn to testify, he said, "I've changed my mind. I've talked to people in the room here. I've met trans people for the first time, and I think this bill is bad, and I am apologizing for having come here to testify in favor of it. I am now testifying against it."
Well, they still have closed minds at the anti-LGBTQ Thomas More Society, a Catholic legal group. They're suing Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania to get rid of the state's broader definition of sex as it applies to sex discrimination on behalf of 2 school districts that want to, go against trans kids.
In Shelburne, Vermont, a police sergeant hit and killed a cyclist because the police sergeant, was watching an anti-trans video in his police car and speeding. He lied about it and said the cyclist, who was standing on the side of the road fixing his bicycle, came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it comes out of nowhere when you're obsessed with that kind of crap.
Yeah.
In Florida, a federal appeals court ruled against that couple who sued their child's school for excluding them from discussions of the child's gender identity. This is January Littlejohn, the parent, Trump's guest at his speech in Congress. The court said the school's conduct did not shock the conscience in a constitutional sense.
You probably don't want to mourn the death of Senator Alan Simpson of Wyoming.
He came around eventually. He was terrible. He was terrible to...
he was terrible on a lot of stuff, but he also was very pro-LGBT.
Towards outside of Congress.
And supported same-sex marriage.
Yeah, he didn't vote for he voted for the Defense of Marriage Act. Come on.
Well, so did a lot of other people.
Like Chuck Schumer.
And yes, exactly. Bill Bradley.
So the National Park Service, which is under fire for scrubbing its site, they got rid of the stuff about Bayard Rustin, the gay civil rights hero. But now they've... they're sort of restoring that to some extent. And an exhibition on Bayard Rustin is going to launch March 28th at the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis.
In Texas, the former spiritual advisor to Trump, Robert Preston Morris, the Gateway megachurch, has been indicted for having sex with a 12-year-old girl for 4 years.
It's Trump's pastor.
Yeah.
Arlington National Cemetery has removed information about prominent Black, Hispanic, and female service members, as well as topics like the Civil War. And so this means they're editing things like, so Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we have a picture of her gravesite there. So her feminist achievements have been wiped out, basically, have been removed from any entry of her. And she's just there among other prominent people and Supreme Court justices, but not as a famous woman, which of course she was.
They're just erasing history. They've killed the voice of America, much to the chagrin of Carrie Lake, who thought she had a job, and now it turns out she doesn't.
Well, and good, because if she's running it, who wants it? The Boston City Council voted 12-1 in favor, making it a sanctuary city for LGBTQ people.
We saw the governor of Maine in conflict with Trump in the White House and saying we're going to follow the law. And he said,
Janet Mills.
Yes. Well, the Department of Agriculture is now defunding the University of Maine because of Janet Mills' support in the White House of trans athletes. The University of Maine, of course, has no trans athletes.
As Janet Mills would say, see you in court.
Yeah.
A college student in upstate New York who's only 18 years old is running to unseat the board member who attacked her, the guy in the middle there. Her name is Elizabeth Lewis, and he attacked her over a gay-straight alliance thing, comparing it with NAMBLA, a pedophile group. And so, she's now running for the school board.
Seat.
Yeah.
The Veterans Administration has rescinded its promise of medical care to trans, non-binary, and intersex veterans. And I
wasn't going to mention that, a Republican Minnesota senator introduced a Trump derangement syndrome bill, which was going to make it a mental illness to be against Trump, basically. But Republican Senator Justin Eichhorn tried to have sex with a 16-year-old girl and is now, even his Republican colleagues are calling for his removal.
Oh, I see. Now. All right. And, the story of the week, we have really buried the lead, but Rachel Maddow did a brilliant job on it, almost live as it was happening. Doge going into the Institute of Peace in Washington, which is an independent organization. They went in there with guns to take over the agency, the organization.
These are thugs who don't identify themselves.
And they got the FBI and the D.C. police with them to go in armed to take they were rejected at first.
And what the hell is the D.C. police doing in there?
Well, the organization called the police.
I know, but the police helped.
I know. The police got there and worked with Doge.
Everybody's afraid.
And this is why, at the top of the show, we talked about setting the scene of what's really going on in this country. This really, I'm sorry we buried this till now, but they are sending armed officers into independent Institute of Peace offices to take over the building.
This is the knock in the middle of the night, no due process, handcuff, goodbye. Nice knowing you.
Trump fired the two Democratic members of the Federal Trade Commission. Right. Gone.
You going to do this one?
Oh, sure. Okay. Hold on. In Tabor, North Carolina, trans woman Irviana Johnson, 25 years old, was murdered.
Found in a pond.
Digital content creator. Her family hunted for her for days. Absolutely beloved. Dead.
Okay.
And in Albuquerque, New Mexico, they have finally identified a trans woman who was murdered in 2021. They have a suspect who's going on trial this year. Chilindrina Gracia Dominguez, 42 years old, just identified 4 years after the murder.
We should talk about a couple of people we've lost.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, Felice Picano died at the age of 81 this week. He was a pioneering gay author. I mean, he wrote in the 70s for the Advocate, Mandate, Christopher Street, but he also founded the groundbreaking Violet Quill, which was a group of gay writers: Andrew Holleran, Robert Farrow, Michael Grumley, Edmund White, George Whitmore, Christopher Cox, and they got together and supported each other, and they formed presses to publish their work and the work of others. He mentored a lot of people. He also was the author with Charles Silverstein of The New Joy of Gay Sex, but he wrote best-selling novels, and he had a partner for 15 years who died of AIDS in 1991, Robert Allen Lowe, and he was quite the pioneer.
And a great ally, Alexander Forger, died at 102.
102?
He was a trust and estates lawyer at Millbank Tweed, where one of my college friends worked as a trust and estates lawyer.
It's a white shoe firm, and it was the first major law firm to offer domestic partner benefits to employees.
He had a gay son.
And our friend Art Leonard, who's a law professor, said that he says, when I was appointed to the Bar Association's co-chair of the Committee on Lesbians and Gay Men, he served on the committee because we had to have a non-gay member, and he was the guy who volunteered to do it. He did a lot of civil rights work.
He sort of had his mainstream law firm years, and then he went to work for the Legal Aid Society and doing civil rights work. Quite the hero.
Yeah. And also gone is Barracuda Lounge in Chelsea, beloved Chelsea gay bar and drag performance space, closing March 23rd after 30 years.
But still operating in Indianapolis, Indiana, the Chatterbox Bar, which threw out some people with MAGA hats who are now claiming discrimination. But the bar says they came in, they misgendered an employee, they were obnoxiously MAGA, singing and yelling about Trump. And the bar told them to leave. And they said, "You're telling us to leave? How dare you? You're discriminating against us."
And I just want to say, for the 9th time, I marched with lavender and green in the New York St. Patrick's Day Parade, the one we worked for 25 years protesting in order to get in. And I just want to say, the reception on the sidelines is universally positive, from young and old.
Good.
All right. International news. Nice to see the Serbians rising up against authoritarianism in massive numbers.
Oh, my God. 500,000 at a demonstration.
Which would be the equivalent of 17 million people protesting here, which is what we're going to need if we're going to start turning this situation around.
Well, there are anti-Trump and Orban and Musk and Putin demonstrations all over Europe. Yeah. Huge everywhere.
Orban is slipping in the polls. So what did they do in the legislature this week? They banned pride marches, pride parades. You can be fined 500 euros for participating, and they're going to use facial recognition technology to get you. And, they had the parade there for 30 years.
Well, they're going to have something this year, too, on June 28th. And will it be a demo? Will it be a march? Who knows? But they're organizing. Parliament there in Hungary is also going to copy Trump and make a declaration that they're only male and female, that those are the only
Good luck with that.
Genders
we also lost this week Maisie Trelette, a person named David Raven, Britain's oldest performing drag artist. No, not queen, my dear, artiste. There's only one effing queen, he used to say.
91 years old.
And just a totally beloved figure. His other half also died of AIDS about 2 decades ago.
Good news from Suriname, where a judge has ordered the country to recognize the marriages of 2 same-sex couples. They have 7 days to do it, and then the legislature has to legalize it for everybody. One of the couples was married in Argentina and has been together for 35 years. And all of this has great public support. The judge noted that the public is way ahead of the government on this.
All right, AIDS news. I mean, one of the things we're most concerned about is what they're going to do to Medicaid and Medicare and health care in this country. So there was a huge demonstration downtown. We're going to run this video from Donna Acito of the health care demonstration down there. Fighting for our health care rights, which are in the balance in Congress right now.
I find this very moving. They're doing a die-in, and they're playing taps, because this is what's happening. The government is killing people.
That's right.
And they don't care. It's what they want to do. So thank you, Donna, for giving us that video.
The Department of Veterans Affairs is no longer providing gender-affirming care to military veterans.
ACT UP is doing an anniversary demonstration with Rise and Resist, Housing Works, a lot of other groups, on Saturday, March 29th from 12 to 2. They're going to gather at the AIDS Memorial at 7th Avenue and 12th Street and march to the Tesla showroom.
Okay.
If Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't interfere. Lots of signs, a die-in expected there. And they hold an emergency town hall to discuss all this. Overflow crowd at the center. So.
And the CDC is looking to eliminate the Division of HIV Prevention. This is $1.3 billion in grants. Oh, we're going to move it somewhere else. Don't worry, it'll be somewhere else. We just don't want to call it that because of DEI stuff, anti-DEI. But Trump did have to dump Dave Weldon, Dr. Dave Weldon, as his head, guy to head the CDC. This is an RFK buddy. He's been withdrawn because he was too much even for some Republican senators.
Well, speaking of buddies, AmFAR held a gala in Palm Beach near Trump's Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump Jr. was there with his girlfriend, and Dr. Oz and Brett Baer of Fox News. AmFAR, what are you doing?
An annual shot to protect against HIV infection has successfully passed an early safety trial. According to The Lancet, that's good news. But there's a TB resurgence all over the world. And by retracting all this foreign aid, Trump could make tuberculosis an untreatable illness again. Consumption.
The PrEP shot is currently available as a bi-monthly shot or a daily pill. This annual shot will be a big advance. And RFK Jr., of course, has the FDA rating poppers manufacturers because he thinks poppers cause AIDS.
And at the NIH, a mural honoring Tony Fauci was scrubbed from the walls.
Literally.
President Elon Musk calls Fauci a freaking demon. They canceled a long-time exhibition about Dr. Fauci. And, it's petty and it's disgraceful. It's like Stalinist Russia.
We have 1 minute. Do you have anything mandatory?
Well, I do want to recommend Ibsen's Ghost at the Mitzi Newhouse Theater, a new version with Lily Rabe and Billy Crudup. I'll post my review in our email.
And let's go out looking at what happened in Iowa at the Capitol with the demonstration there, which was also very, very moving.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Come back if you want more of this.